Hello, everybody. It's me, Karina. I'm thinking about changing my name to Karina, which is my actual name. But it sounds weird, doesn't it? Because everybody knows me as Curry Tea. So, anyway, it's me. And I have got Amy with me today. Amy is a very good friend of mine, fellow coach. She is a certified relationship coach, and she is also specialized in attachment styles. So, me and Amy have had so many conversations over the last year, say six, sort of 7 or 8 months, like 9 months or something, because we've both been through really, really similar things, and we have spoken to very similar clients going through very similar things, and we notice things that are the same. And we thought today we do a video on why it seems to be so hard to leave someone who is showing up as avoidant. And we're going to draw on our own experiences, and we're also going to talk about, what we see commonly with other people. So I'm going to hand over to you. Do you want to dive in?
Hi everyone. Yes, I like this topic because having been there myself for about 7 years in an on and off relationship with an avoidant and speaking to people most days who are in the cycle of that dynamic, that avoidant and anxious dynamic. And because I could never understand why. I could never understand why that this person was treating me how they were. And I knew that it wasn't right, but I still just couldn't walk away and I couldn't figure out why. And even when he ended things, I just couldn't. I just couldn't function. It was weird. I just could not function without that person. And consciously, I knew that this relationship doesn't work. But I found myself going back time and time again.
Mm.
And I noticed this with clients as well. Almost every client I have, the first session is, I want to make this relationship work. How do I get this relationship to work?
Yeah.
And by the end of it, you probably won't want to make it work. You'll realize why this actually happens. And when you realize why this happens, you'll find it a lot easier to put this to bed and walk away. I'm not saying it's going to be easy every single day, but when you can realize that it is that sort of addictive, intermittent reinforcement pattern that's keeping you feeling like you're trapped in this relationship, that when you realize what it is and when you can distance yourself, you will be able to walk away a lot easier and work on yourself.
It's like the slot machine thing, isn't it? You the energy that you put into this person, you think maybe this text, they're going to get it. And sometimes they do. Sometimes it's
Exactly.
like, I hear you. Yeah, I get it. But I think one of the things that's so difficult about these relationships is that, especially at the beginning, there don't seem to be many red flags. And it's like, this is great. This is like an amazing relationship. I'm so happy. And I'm like finally met someone that I really, really like and feel this amazing chemistry with. And if you're like me and so many other of my other clients are, feeling actual chemistry and attraction towards someone is so rare that when you do, you're like, oh my God, I can feel these things. I didn't realize I could feel these things. And it's like the concoction of like this person and you and their past and your past and all of those sort of things that make it so like compelling and attractive. And I think at the beginning you're hooked in, you're absolutely bought in to the person that you see this person as, the person that they show themselves to be. And then one of the things that just happens over and over and over again is like when the sort of like the mask starts coming off and you start sort of seeing, oh shit, they're pulling back a bit and I don't like that, or that's a red flag, but I'm going to ignore it because what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this person the benefit of the doubt because you desperately want to, because ruining the facade or ruining the story, the love story that you've created would just be too difficult.
Exactly. And I think that beginning part, I don't think it's more that there are no red flags. I think we
Yeah,
just filter the red flags out
yeah,
because the rest of it feels so good. And I can, if I cast my mind back to say even the first 5 times I met my ex, it was very easy. It felt seamless. We felt like we were on the same page, and you're looking for things that affirm that. You're looking for, oh, but we've got this in common. Oh,
yeah.
but we like this. Both of us like this. We've got the same passions, and because it feels so easy, feels so natural,
Mhm.
that you kind of settle into a relationship with an avoidant quite quickly, and this is why it's so addictive, because it is so intense emotionally
Mm.
at the beginning that it just hooks you almost instantly.
I think as well, what happens is because it's so intense, you form this thing. We're a unit now. We're basically a family. This is it. And it happens so fast that like you become attached like very, very quickly. And then it feels so out of the ordinary and so out of the norm for you to be then questioning their behavior because you're a unit now. Like that bond
Exactly.
has been formed, and it's so confusing for people when when they do something that contradicts it, when they do something that makes you question, like you don't, because I know for me what happened with me was that I was in the unit. I was absolutely in the unit, in the family. I was in the his family. I was in absolutely intertwined into part of everything very, very quickly. And so for me to start and there was so many benefits to that. Like I've got this amazing relationship. I'm part of a family. This is everything I've wanted my whole life. And then, to start seeing red flags, you think, no, 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 no. La 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 la. And
Yeah,
what I did was I felt so triggered by them, but I would like push it down. And then the biggest problem, like you touched on just now, is you start thinking, how can I fix me so that I'm okay with this? How can I work on myself so that I become okay with this, even though I'm not?
exactly. And I mean, for me, I think within the first, I think about the first 3 months, I can remember my ex completely standing me up
Yeah,
on one occasion. And yeah, I was mad, and yeah, I had it out with him. But because he kind of made excuses for it, and because I didn't want to see it, even though I felt incredibly disrespected, I found myself trying to be okay with being disrespected.
yeah, yeah,
And, trying to sort of move past it when I didn't really want to move past it.
no,
Part of me
yeah,
was there thinking, no, absolutely not. This behavior is not okay. But the problem with that was my boundaries just became so poor
yeah,
that
yeah,
it got worse and worse and worse over time. And there were never any kind of consequences to
exactly.
disrespecting me.
Because it's so scary, isn't it, to like actually put a proper boundary. And I had a similar thing. I remember the first sort of week or so, week or two of the relationship, we were absolutely solidly together. We were, plans made, trips booked, all sorts of things happening. And I remember we had this argument because I didn't like the way that he spoke to me when he was angry about something. It was nothing to do with me, but the thing was that I thought, whoa, my nervous system went, no, I don't like that. I don't want, I'm so sensitive as a person. And like, so I just expressed that. And rather than being acknowledged for that, that feeling that I'd expressed or talking about it, finding a repair, it was just shut down, dismissed. Oh, stop talking about it now. You're too sensitive. And I remember thinking, no, this cannot be. I know this is wrong. I know this is wrong. And actually, what I should do is leave. I should pack my bags and I should leave because this is me being completely disrespected. And I knew it. I knew that I was being disrespected. The conversation was not resolved. It was swept under the rug. And I thought, and I, but what happens is in the cycle of these situations is that the intensity of the argument, the problem is really big. And you think, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to leave. And then everything, you have a bit of space and everything settles down. And you actually end up sweeping it under the rug yourself as well, because
Mm.
the intensity's gone and you'd rather everything is just nice. And
Yeah,
so it's like this, it's so hard when that happens. Like there's something goes wrong, there's a big confrontation about it, it's not resolved, but yet the dysregulation eases off. And then you just don't want to bring it up again because it's like, well, that's going to dysregulate us again. That's so stressful. It's so scary to think that I might lose this person. So
exactly. And as anxious attachers, we're really, really well versed in, being conditioned into thinking our feelings don't matter anyway.
yeah,
So yes, we are the ones to, I suppose, sweep it under the rug because we believe that our feelings don't matter, even though there's that conscious part of us that knows this is absolutely wrong.
yeah.
Subconsciously, we think, oh, well, I don't want to rock the boat, or,
Yeah.
oh, I
Or
don't
you
want to
just,
have.
I think it really comes down to as well being terrified of abandonment and not being chosen. Like if you leave, is that it? Are they just gonna like not fight for me? And then I will have meant nothing. You make it mean all these things, and it's so scary. I mean, like we can both answer this question, but when you look back now, when you look at like the beginning and you seeing the red flags and you ignoring them, what would you tell yourself now? What do you know now that you didn't know then? What,
Um, I
yeah,
think if that had happened now, I don't think I would have got past the first date because, in hindsight, he told me who he was.
yeah,
He told me,
uh,
he was. It wasn't that he lied about who he was. It
yeah,
wasn't. It was, but it was said in a way that was quite vulnerable.
yeah,
It was said in a way that really spoke to that codependent part of me that wanted to fix.
yeah,
So, just as I mean, as an example, this person said, "I'm a real big binge drinker."
mm,
And I've got family trauma around drinking, and that should have been a huge red flag for me. But I found myself thinking, yeah, but he'll stop if I love him enough.
yeah, yeah,
It's when we're saying about why you find it difficult to leave. Number one, you're still chasing the intensity of what it was like at the beginning. And number two, there's like this kind of belief that this person's going to change
mm,
if I, love them enough, if I support them enough, if I do this, if I do that, if I try and change myself, if I try to be okay with
yeah,
disrespect,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
then they'll change. But and unfortunately for me and for yourself, it took a long time to understand that that wasn't going to happen, and that was down to me to look at what my codependency patterns were and where they came from. And
yeah,
I had conditioning from my mother, for example, that you know the conditioning with that is you stay no matter what.
yeah,
You
yeah,
don't leave. And, regardless of how bad it gets, you don't leave.
yeah,
And I almost felt like at times, even though I knew the relationship was wrong, I almost felt guilty about leaving. And I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be abandoning him. And because
mm,
he'd sort of projected this very vulnerable kind of lovable rogue, immature, needs help. I try my best, but bad things happen to me. Because he'd sort of portrayed that, it kind of did speak to that helper part of me where I actually thought I feel really guilty about.
you feel responsible because that will have been like the pattern. You're responsible for fully functioning adults when you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that was partially why it was so hard to sort of break away. But I would say that the main reason was hope. And as they say in football, it's the hope that keeps you, hope that keeps you, it's the hope that kills you. And
Yeah.
it is.
It can feel so addictive because you're like still addicted to the to the hope, to the possibility, to the person that you think they can be, and you want to love them and you want to support them through it. I've seen it in like, people who've been avoidant, and the highly empathetic person on the other end of it is going, I get it. I get why they feel like that. And I just wanted to love them. And they all the time saying things like, if only I'd understood. If only I'd understood that they were avoidant, then I could have acted differently. Then I could have responded differently. Then I could have been different. And they've got another thing I see all the time is this kind of like magical thinking about like what it would be if only they would feel safe enough with you for them to actually do the work and heal. But
Mm.
actually, the truth is that they're showing you who they are with their coping mechanisms at this point, and it's going to take a lot. It's going to take something for them to do the work, and otherwise you become the collateral damage of somebody's coping mechanism. And that's why it's so hard, because you want to believe in the person that you see them as. You, with your beautiful vision of this person, see them as all of their possibility and all of their greatness, and how bloody lucky they are to have someone who sees them that way. And that's the really difficult thing about it, is that you want to keep loving. You don't want to not love them. You want to love them into the person that you believe that they can be. And it feels better to love than to look at them through the lens of, they're terrible for me. This is gonna hurt. I can't be around them. You don't want to feel defensive and closed off and shut down and everything, but you do. And it's really, really hard to just admit that to yourself. I think one of the things that I found incredibly hard was admitting to myself that I didn't want to be with this person. I just couldn't admit it to I just couldn't get there. Just could not accept that that's where I was, because before I'd loved this person so much, I would have done anything for them. And like admitting to myself that I couldn't stand the emotional unavailability, the sort of emotional closed off distance thing, the other things, like I couldn't tolerate it in the long run, and I hated that. I didn't want to accept that that was what the reality was, and it took me so long to do that. But when I did, it was very liberating, because I was like actually being authentic with myself then.
Exactly. And I think this idea of not wanting the person initially feels really scary.
Yeah,
But how often do you think about something that you don't want?
yeah, yeah,
And it's almost like, that final sort of letting go that's really hard. But I can tell you guys that it's way more painful clinging on.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone said to me once, you're spending so much energy staying. Do you realize how much energy you're spending trying to stay in this relationship? And I thought, oh my God.
I
It's
know.
so true. Like,
I know. And, for me, it was just sort of the constant hot and cold. I mean, you don't know what version you're going to get of them. You don't know if they're going to be happy one day or moody the next. You don't know whether they're going to speak to you or not. You don't know whether they're going to be available or not available. And it's the uncertainty that kind of keeps you on your toes, but also keeps you feeling really confused
mm,
because you're holding two belief systems about somebody,
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of ignoring what's in front of you because what's in front of you shit, and having this other belief system that's in your head about who this person could be or who this person was at the beginning. And because these don't marry up,
mm,
you end up in, a real state of confusion where you can't really leave because you don't know where you stand. You don't
yeah.
know what's true and what's not true.
So
And
confusing. Yeah,
yeah, and again, that's where this addiction is coming from. It's the intermittent reinforcement that how can I say this that's going to get me the result that I want?
mm,
What can I do that's going to get me the result that I want? What can I say to this person that's going to get me that little morsel?
Yeah,
of,
like
of
when are
affection.
they're gonna, because you hear of also all these stories online of like couples who were really struggling. And this is true. Like couples can really, really struggle. Someone could be really avoidant and then have something that happens and go, oh my God. Like I've been, you see these things happen all the time, and then they want to do the work, and it happens, and that like gives you this sense of hope that maybe they're going to get it. Maybe, and I also think as well that from a sort of ego-y place, your ego does not like the idea of giving up. Like when
No,
you've invested so much in someone, you want it to be you that they change for. You want it to be you that they finally see themselves and it's so hard to say to yourself, it might not be me. I might just be part of the journey. And, it's so hard to say, maybe this is actually something that has to stay broken. But I mean, looking back, when I look back at everything now and the journey that I've been on, I think, whoa, I've come such a long way. Like I used to be able to not go a few hours without checking my phone. Oh, has he text me? Has he text me? Has he text me? And at the end of the relationship, I did not do any of that. I wasn't. I had absolutely checked out because I had got so I'd moved on way before I realized that I'd moved on. Like in many ways emotionally, I had outgrown a lot of what I was tolerating, but I didn't have the courage to actually leave till much later. And I think because part of me was like, absolutely determined to be right. I was determined to be right that we can heal this. This is something better than this is ours. And we're gonna do this. We deserve it. Like we're gonna find a way. I wanted to be that loving, solid person that I'd always said I was gonna be. I also loved being significant to him. I loved being important to him. I loved, all of that. I didn't want to give up that identity. I didn't want to give up that role. I didn't want to stop being the one that loved him no matter what because I was so proud of that. I was so proud of being like the ever undying love that has stayed in his life. I loved being that person. But when I realized how shite my mental health was and how absolutely lost I was and how completely disconnected from myself was, how literally I was on the floor emotionally. And like I look back and I think, blooming heck, the strength that I had to stay was like the biggest stretch of my life. And yeah, I look back and I think I must have been terrified to leave. I must have felt so low about myself. I must have not known in any way what love should be. And I had to basically see the contrast in order to sort of realize what I do want. And then that's what it took. But it's horrible for some people who have to go through these things in order to sort of start making decisions about a love that you do want. But this is part of the journey for some people, isn't it?
it is part of the journey. And to be honest, the stuff that I've learned about myself
Yeah.
over the last God knows how many years because of this relationship, I couldn't get that in therapy.
No, live
I
it. You
couldn't.
have to live it.
Exactly. And yeah, I am more sort of set in what I do want now. I know what I will and won't tolerate.
Yeah.
I am confident that I can spot red flags.
Yeah.
And I know now, like I said before, if I went on a date with that person now,
Yeah. Be like, bye bye.
yeah,
See you
exactly.
later. Thank
But
you.
like you say, because I'd invested so much and, I so wanted it to work. I really, really loved that person. And,
Mhm.
I so wanted it to work, really did. And like you, I didn't want to be wrong. Did not
That's one
want
of the
to
things.
be, I didn't want to be wrong about it, but I was.
Yeah, that's
And
what. Do
that's
you know what?
okay.
The week after I had that breakup, someone said to me, it's really going to take something for you to admit that you were wrong. And I thought, I don't want to listen to you. I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. I wasn't wrong. But actually, looking back, he was really right. He was like, it's going to take a lot of strength for you to really get the courage to say, I was wrong about this person. And now I can say, I was wrong. I completely, completely misjudged who this person could be. And I gained so much at the same time. I gained, honestly, I think my abandonment wound and my self-worth must have been so low. It was really going to take, it had to take something for me to learn the lesson. Like looking back at like what I went through and stuff. I just don't think I used to think I was self-aware. I used to think that I knew myself. And obviously I don't know everything about myself now, and there's still a hell of a lot of journey to go on, and I still am on it like I always will be. And I'm not going to claim to know everything or be somehow, excessively wise because of this. But like the fact is that I mean, I really didn't know myself before. I really, really didn't get it. And I thought I did. And I'm sure maybe in, 5 years' time, I'll say that about me now. But the thing was that, oh my God, I learned so much about what I believed about relationships. I learned so much about self-respect. I learned so much about boundaries. I learned so much about authenticity and people pleasing and my survival instincts. So there is a silver lining to these relationships that will inform future relationships in a positive way. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, I think grief's an amazing teacher.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, and I think I was aware that, particularly towards the end, that I did have a gaping abandonment wound that I just kept on thinking, no, no, it's not. This isn't how it's going to be.
yeah.
This is how it's going to be. And in the end, I just exhausted myself.
I think it's so exhausting suppressing your feelings, isn't it? Like that was the thing that I was finding so hard. I knew I was doing it, but I didn't know how to stop, like suppressing my feelings. I think the reason why I was suppressing them was because I thought if these feelings come up, they're going to tell me to leave, and I don't want to leave. If these feelings that are telling me that something's wrong really come to the surface, if I really address this, I'm actually the only thing that I can do because boundaries don't work with this person.
Yeah.
The only thing that I can do is actually remove myself.
Yeah. And I think I suppressed a lot because I didn't want to rock the boat because that would mean that he left, as he
Yeah.
quite frequently did. But like you, I was getting completely exhausted. And in the end, I couldn't suppress them anymore.
No. Yeah,
I did
exactly.
let them
Can't.
come up and I was talking about it, even though I wasn't getting the response that I needed. I was sort of thinking, no, I need to talk about it. I need to get it out.
That's the thing that's so hard, isn't it? When you actually finally get the courage to say, here are my feelings, and this is what matters to me. And then you get a response that's like, shut down. You're too sensitive. Don't talk about that. I really don't want to talk about it right now. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow, and then tomorrow never comes. Like, you start thinking, maybe I am the problem. I think with avoidance as well, I mean, they've got an incredible way of making you think it's your fault. Like,
So
they've got a really skilled at it, making you think that you could have done something differently. I mean, a lot of avoidance will also say, um, it's not you, it's me. I'm going and I'm avoiding and I can't help it. But still, if you're empathetic, you're gonna go, oh, I could have been more understanding. I could have listened more or talked less or, if only I hadn't been me, basically. I would say for about 2 years in my relationship, in one of my relationships, I spent Googling, doing courses, reading books, going to therapy, asking tarot cards, asking God. what was wrong with me and how I could fix it, how I could let go of some trauma. And I literally took the full responsibility on myself to try to fix me so that I could not be a problem and would not keep asking him to talk about these things that were creating a problem. And I literally put it all on me and said that it was all me. Because if I said that it was all him or anything to do with him, we'd have an argument. And I kind of knew that.
Yeah, and that happened to me as well because when I used to say anything like that, he'd say, "Well, I don't argue with anybody else, so
Gosh,
it must be you." And I believed it. I thought, yeah, you're right. It's me."
yeah. And because we're so, because because you're in the world of working on yourself and healing and things like this, you think you do go down the route of thinking, what is it within me? What is it within me that's, but the biggest question, honestly, the big gaping question in all of this is what's making you stay? That's the only question. Not like what's wrong with you, not what have you got to fix, what have you got to heal. It's more like what is it that's telling you this is so familiar? What's telling you that you deserve this poor treatment, that you deserve that this is so normal for you to feel so neglected. That was the biggest question in the end that I asked myself is like, what the hell? Why am I thinking that this isn't okay? I started thinking it's not okay. It's actually not okay. And I have the choice to say that it's not okay, and then it started changing and the boundary, it got, I think the other reason why it's so hard, I think the other reason why it's so effing hard to leave these relationships when you're very intensely in one is that, like I said, you form this unit at the beginning and you're the unit, you're there, you're attached, you two are you two. And then if you start standing up for yourself, then it sort of threatens their sense of stability and their sense of control. And that makes you feel unsafe because you're not used to setting boundaries or you're not used to speaking your truth. And it is so terrifying to do this with someone who is emotionally not present and able to take it. So you back down again. And for me, I just kept speaking it and saying it and then backing down, speaking it,
Yeah,
saying it, and then backing down.
like he's too fragile to be
Yeah,
able
like
to
what I
confront.
needed, what we all bloody need is permission. What we need is someone to go, that makes sense that you feel like that. Like I can see I've hurt you, I can see I've upset you. And you need someone to be able to validate it, but you're asking the wrong person to do the job. It's like this person has not got the skills or the capacity to do it. And I realized that I was asking the wrong person to do something for me, which I had to learn to do for myself, which was validate my own experience, learn how to stand up for myself. And even if I was blooming terrified, do what I needed to do to actually set a boundary,
I
you know?
think mine was learning how to soothe myself.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did
yeah.
find, particularly towards the sort of middle of the relationship, I, you know, really, really could not soothe myself without him.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it made me feel really powerless. And then when he did distance, it felt 100 times worse because I felt like my oxygen had gone.
Mm, mm,
Felt like I'd just not got the tools to be able to soothe myself. But
yeah.
I would say, sort of, particularly the last 12 months of the relationship, no, probably the last 2 years of the relationship,
Mm,
I'd got a lot better at that. I'd got a lot better at self-soothing. But also what happened is, I don't know whether this was the same with you, I stopped talking to people about the
oh
relationship.
yeah, because you know exactly what they're going to say.
Yeah. They were going to say, this isn't okay. And I wasn't ready to hear that.
Mm,
Uh, but if it is that, as anxious attachers, we need to learn how to soothe ourselves and to be able to initially heal the wound of abandonment, which you can only really do by sitting through it, which I know that's not what people want to hear. And I would definitely recommend that you get some kind of therapy to help with it. But if you can learn how to soothe yourself, you're
yeah.
not going to need the avoidant. You're not going to need them to give you the next breadcrumb to,
Yeah.
you know, you for you to fight to feel seen and heard, for example. You're not going to be fighting for that anymore. And also, if for whatever reason you wander into another relationship with an avoidant, your alarm bells are going to go off.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a case of, oh, he's emotionally distancing like the last one.
No, yeah, that's the thing. That's what, so many of your clients and my clients do this thing where they're like, I've got this pattern where I just keep on meeting emotionally unavailable people and it keeps on happening and I don't know why. And they distance themselves. And then like, I'm all, you end up catering to this distance, this emotional distance. And you get to a point where you've understood yourself, where if someone does that, this is what a secure person does. They ask directly, immediately, what is going on, and they want to understand like the situation, and they're not scared of asking direct questions, and therefore getting the truth of the situation, so that they can make an informed decision. If the person doesn't give a good enough answer, if they're vague, if they're like wishy-washy, it's like, oh, I know this behavior, I know this, I'll have to go. And it's like it's different is there's a sort of nuance to this in that like let's say someone knows that they're avoidant and they're truly working on it, they're truly actually invested in doing the work, they have seen this happen in their lifetime and time again, they've spoken up about it, they've told you what they do, they've told you their triggers, then there's an element of like room for collaboration, because it's like I always say to people, like you can't get over something, an avoidant isn't going to get over avoidance by being on their own. They're going to get over it by being in a relationship. It's like if you, a fear of lifts, I always use this example, but someone has a fear of lifts, you don't get over the fear of lifts by thinking, why am I afraid of lifts? You get over the fear of lifts by going in a lift repeatedly, even though you're scared. And it's the same with, avoidance. They've got to be able to handle the discomfort. And, quite often they're not, they don't want to. It's so hard, it's so uncomfortable, and they just go into flight mode and they're gone.
Exactly. And the anxious attacher just starts to think about, okay, how can I start being okay with their distance?
Yeah.
And how can I start to be okay with their avoidance? And again, sort
Yeah.
of turning the light onto themselves, like, oh, there's a problem with me. It's okay that they're emotionally distant. I just need to find a way
Well, it's
to.
exactly what I did. I mean, I spent ages being like, if I was okay within myself, then I wouldn't need to have this conversation with him. If I was okay with myself, then I wouldn't need to address this blah blah blah. I wouldn't be triggered. Maybe I've got a wound about anger. Maybe I've got a wound, but actually, like the fact is that some things you're okay with and some things you're not okay with, and that's fine. And you have to be able to address them in a relationship, and it has to land in a place where someone's going to be able to take accountability. I mean, the hardest thing about relationships is accountability. Like if you're in a safe relationship, you're able to say, I have this history of being anxious in relationships. This has happened to me, this has happened to me, this has happened to me. So I'm gonna be triggered. That's going to happen. And, I'll probably bring something to you at some point. And if the person is safe, they'll go, yeah, that's fine. You can like you're safe with me. Like you're gonna be okay. We're gonna work through this. And you know, then what happens is like there's videos of the scared puppies, like they're terrified and they snap and they bite and they like run away and they're like this, and then by the end of the video they're like playing because they've been met time and time again with safety, with care, with playfulness, with kindness, and then the puppy they're meant to be. And I think as anxious people you think, I'm going to be that for the avoidant, but what about you? This is the thing. This is what we forget. Like, hey, what about you? And I think a lot of the time as well, I mean, what I did, and I'm sure like so many people have done, is like you spend so much time like decoding the avoidance behavior that you're not thinking about your own.
But I think this boils down to like I said before, intermittent reinforcement, that pattern makes it so that you are hyper focused on that person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying nothing, none of it's to do with anxious attachment because it is. We are hyper vigilant. But on the other side of that, if you are with an avoidant partner, they're not going to help you hyper vigilant. They're going to make it so that you
Yeah.
are hyper focused on them, what they need, what they're doing, what they're thinking. You know, how can I get this breadcrumb? What do I need to say to this person? And it's almost like, you know, you're the sunflower searching for the sun, thinking they're the sun, and
Mhm.
looking at them all the time instead of actually, you know, looking after yourself. What do you need in this moment?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the question. That's where you've got to turn it around. Like it becomes like this person is like your entire existence depends on them.
Mm.
But you've got to say, what else is going on in my life? Like, where are my friends? Where are my hobbies? Where are the things that I like to do? Because you've got to get to a point, really, in an ideal world where you think, well, I've got all these other things going on. So if they're in my life and it works, then great. But if they're in my life and they're actually creating disruption and instability and conflict, that's not helping me. Like I have this rule now where I'm just like, if it doesn't add to my peace, it's taking away from it. And that's too much of a risk, you know? And it's like, and obviously all relationships have conflict in them, but you've got to think to yourself, like the relationship that you actually get to choose, the one relationship that's so important that you get to choose, where you actually live with this person, they're basically the most important person that you're ever going to choose to have in your life. Choose someone you feel safe with. Like that's the bottom line. You've got to choose someone you feel safe with, who you can go home to and go, oh, they're home. And like, thank God, you know? And like, I can rest now rather than thinking, wonder what mood they're going to be in.
Yeah. How do I say this
How do
without
I've got this
fireworks?
thing that I've been thinking about all day, wondering how I'm going to say it because I know it might go wrong if they take it the wrong way. Like, that's not safety. That's not emotional
No. So
safety.
I'm gonna wait 3 days until
The dust is
until
settled.
everyone's calmed down. And then by that time I won't need to say it anyway.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that was my strategy anyway.
Oh. We've learned such a lot, haven't we?
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, so we thought we'd just have this chat and uh hopefully some of you will be able to relate and you'll be able to maybe it'll be triggering even. I can imagine this video being a bit triggering because I'm pretty sure I would have found this video really triggering before. But if you watched it all the way through, you've got to congratulate your already obvious growth because to be able to sort of understand this and like be able to reflect on it to this degree, I think it really takes something. It's really, really hard to get here when you've been so heavily invested in in somebody and you've loved them and you do love them and you want the best outcome. I think the best outcome is going to be you choosing you at the end of the day. Because when you choose you, the world chooses you as well, like as in not to sound wishy-washy, but you end up lining up with things and people and places that like really do are on the same page as you. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
It's been wonderful sitting and chatting with you again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speak to you tomorrow. Um, but yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for watching. Yeah, I said that right. Um, if anybody wants to talk to me or to Amy about any of this, if you want to share your experiences, if you need some coaching, you can contact Amy. I'll put the links on my um, description, or you can contact me. And yeah, you will see us in other videos to come. Bye.